Alright, welcome back to Is It Busted with Veedotme. This is the series where we look at a roguelike game, do a run of it, and try to figure out, was the build busted or not? Today we're playing Dead Cells, a game that I have a lot of hours in. Having a look at our starting tubes, I am going to pick up the tentacle, and usually by default you say that this is already not busted. However, we are only in prison quarters, and I gotta say, whenever I use the tentacle, I feel like I know what I'm doing with it. Only like 2 or 3 punches, what we call the Saitama punch on the one elite, is enough to take it out. Every single individual monster dies in either 1 or 2 hits, and from the look of it, if I don't get the kill with the actual punch itself, Mushroom Boy comes in and gets the kill for me. We actually get an extremely rare cursed chest in the very beginning of the run. I probably see this 1 out of every 30 runs I do. So this is already a good sign if it's going to be busted or not. I did grab the Hokuto's bow in the backpack. That could turn into something really strong. A backpacked Hokuto's bow could mean that we have Acrobatic Pack that could turn into some kind of support with a ranged item. I still don't know if I'm playing Brutality or Tactics. I'm not gonna take the Infantry bow just yet, and honestly, I don't think it's gonna be very good with Hokuto's anyway. So we're gonna grab the Ice Shards for now. That could turn into a dual bind with Hokuto in the backpack, and that sounds busted to me. I take a quick look at the map and see that Castle Outskirts is a curse incentive. That's new for update 35. That means this map is going to have new cursed monsters on it in exchange for a higher chance of a cursed chest to show up and higher level gear on the map. So currently, I would say our prison quarters looks busted. Let's give a quick check on our items in Castle Outskirts. 1 Saitama punch does not kill any monster by itself from the look of it. It's not that I can't kill anything, but it certainly doesn't look very impressive. The one elite that I have to fight, I punch maybe 4 times total, but a lot of dodge rolls and stuff like that to get a reset with my positioning. Not super great. We also have to be careful of these little guys called sore losers. These things curse you whenever you kill them. Every once in a while, I don't get cursed if I kill them with the oil grenade, but I'm gonna swap to this new item called Indulgence. This thing will reduce your curse by 3, I believe, if it gets a kill on its own. When you don't have any curse, it does a critical hit, so it could be fairly strong. We happen to get the cursed chest on this map, which is not guaranteed. This might be because of the curse incentive, giving us a bonus chance for it to show up. Tesla Coil is certainly a busted item. Having it on colorless allows us to bring in support off color, which still does very good damage on its own. I'm thinking it's looking good, just right now, Tentacle Ice Shards isn't gonna cut it. Now I am running Acrobatic Pack. There's a potential that we use Infantry Bow here in order to activate the Hokuto. The only issue with that is I think the Hokuto's bow might be the same speed as Infantry Bow, and Infantry Bow's attack speed's not very fast. So you can imagine I'm gonna go up to a monster, I'm gonna hit it with infantry, but not hit it with the Hokuto. So we're not getting the bonus from the mark. That means I have to basically shoot it twice to feel Hokuto's bow, and by then it's probably dead because infantry is already kind of strong. At this point, I'm gonna ditch the tentacle, keep the ice shards, because I do really think dual binding gameplay is gonna work here. So coming out of Castle Outskirts, I'm gonna say the build is no longer busted. We gotta catch up. In the transition room, Blood Sword, Bleeding Causes Poisoning. That by itself is really good. We're gonna take this for sure. If I hold to attack on both, you can see that I can get the attack spam. Bleeding Causes Poisoning on Blood Sword is also very, very strong. Funny enough, it seems to work on anything in your build that has bleeding to it, so long as you hit it 1 time with a Blood Sword. I'll try to show that to you in a second. Acrobatic Pack stays. Open Wounds comes in, so we get stronger pops. And now we're going into a corrupted prison that also has curse incentive, which is kind of weird. There's no additional chance of a curse showing up. But what you do get is that the items that show up are going to be higher level. So that was a level 8 Alucard sword. Indulgence already reduced my curse down to 5. Super good. However, when I throw my turret at this new curse monster, I actually get a bug. This is in beta. I'm gonna show you a screenshot of what this looks like. I have no idea what this is supposed to mean, but I mean, maybe a dev is gonna see this and do something. As you know, whenever your game crashes, the whole map gets reset and it throws you in the beginning, almost as if you had saved the game at that point. Indulgence still hits pretty well, but funny enough, I don't see the cursed monsters anymore. And now that I think about it, the Alucard sword from the beginning was only level 7. So it clearly went down a tier. I think all of the curse incentive is gone. I'm not using melee mutation because I'm trusting the ice shard to slow everything down. If you were to ask me, I would say we're back in busted territory. You have to be careful about birds still. Even though they're being slowed by ice shards, I think it's a good idea to try to do the dodge no matter what. Challenge Rift comes in. This, of course, giving us more power. Probably gonna get us in a really good spot damage-wise. Checking out the next maps, we do have Curse Incentive in Ancient Sewers, which is a great place for us to go to next. Before we leave, I'm gonna pick up the Cleaver. As I said, when you have another thing that does bleeding, the bleeding causes poisoning on Blood Sword actually works. I don't know if that's intended or not, but thinking about other roguelikes where you have one item and it kind of affects your entire build, actually very, very cool to think about in Dead Cells. Since I seem to be spamming these cursed maps, I'm gonna pick up this Fight for Your Life mutation. Basically, if you die in any way, you have 2 seconds to kill a monster. If something hits you during that time, you do also die. So here's an example of an elite. I threw down the Cleaver. I'm going to slash it exactly 1 time, and you'll see that the bleed causes poisoning is there. It's getting multiple stacks of poison, and I'm not even swinging at it anymore. Quick busted check. It does look like I can kill basically everything in here by just holding down the ice shards and the blood sword. We do get Hokuto's bow off of the ice shards, which I think is very important. You could turn ice shards into throwing knife. In that case, you probably have to use melee mutation, but I'm essentially using ice shards as a way to circumvent needing a mutation. That means that there's a mimic on this map. I don't know what I would particularly be looking for, but honestly, if I see anything good, I would want mimicked as well as leveled up from the curse incentive. That sounds really strong to me. As we continue to kill more stuff, I come across a legendary symmetrical lance. Now, if you were to ask me, is this a busted item? I would say it's probably in the triple S tier for legendaries. I'm not gonna take it just yet because almost our entire build is focused around the ice shards and blood sword together. And then there's also a rapier at the bottom of this tunnel, which, thinking about the symmetrical lance, you could potentially use Porcupine here. The rapier loves when you dodge roll because that enables crits. So it could be interesting that you can dodge roll, hit the enemy with a symmetrical lance in your backpack, and then stab it with the sword for crits. I'm not gonna take them yet because that requires mutations. We'll wait a little later. So the first shop is a weapon shop. We have to think about what we realistically would like to see mimicked. Remember, a mimicked item gets plus levels, and then it also has plus levels thanks to it being a cursed map. To do a quick check on Abyssal Trident, it is not a mimic, so that means the other shop must be the mimic. Here we have another Cleaver. We could definitely mimic that, but I'm gonna greed out a little bit because if I'm gonna change over to Porcupine Rapier, I'm not gonna want turrets for that. I'm gonna want something that has a good cooldown to it. Something that you want to use Instinct of the Master of Arms. Phaser's another interesting option, but I feel like the phaser itself isn't very strong. And if I'm gonna teleport onto a monster, why am I gonna do the dodge roll for Rapier? I'm already behind it. Of course, Syringe, being cursed and leveled up from the Mimic, is probably very strong, but $18,000, I don't know if I can get that much. Fire Grenade, not a big fan, but that might be the best option here. We have to take something because this is a nice little gift that the game is giving us right now. We're gonna go ahead and grab this, fight the Mimic. The Mimic doesn't really care about being slowed very much, so I will take some hits, but it's really not super deadly. I don't mind tanking a little bit. And there we go, swapping out Tesla coil. We now have a high-powered fire grenade, symmetrical lance in the backpack, and then rapier on our primary attack. I'm gonna grab the snake fang. I don't plan on doing anything with it. I know the ice shards gameplay is already done. I'm going to re-roll the symmetrical lance a couple of times. What I'm looking for is the Fable plus 40% bonus damage for free, ideally along with victim slow nearby targets. Unfortunately, I didn't get it, and I didn't leave me enough money to actually use the reset for my mutations. So let me just go ahead and use the symmetrical lance anyway. Conjunctivius is a flying monster, so not the best fight for something like this. But we are doing chunks. It is not possible to one-shot a tentacle, even with something as strong as this symmetrical lance. At best, they're gonna die in 2 hits. Another super quick phase done. I'm gonna try to check if I can actually hit Conjunctivius during that bubble. I already know I'm gonna have YouTube comments asking me why I didn't bother hitting the boss. That's the whole point of the symmetrical lance. But as you can clearly see, this thing is just a PNG. It does not take damage. All right, and there's a flawless kill on Conjunctivius. We have no curse incentive this time, but our legendary is Legendary Serenade. Now, when we want to talk about, is the build busted? Legendary Serenade's really high up there on the list. This gives us more reason to put Symmetrical Lance in the backpack because we could run double Serenade and then get the actual dodge roll hit from Porcupine. All the while, I'm waiting to actually land my rapier hits, which is actually a good item. Especially with combo, every single tap of the sword gives you 1 combo meter. We do have Bank. Bank has 2 shops. Very good chances for us to get a skill shop. We do have to be very careful. The map is still very dangerous. We have curses to go through as well. One nice thing about this map is, just like prison quarters, you're basically guaranteed to do the curse at the very beginning of the map. And then after that, it should technically be smooth sailing. The build at this point, I would say, is pretty busted. It's not incredibly impressive because we have so many things that are just waiting to be activated. We have a Porcupine Symmetrical Lance that's waiting to be rolled, and we have a Legendary Serenade that's just hitting monsters for free before I get to them. The first shop we ran into is a weapon shop. We don't want that. What we want to see is a Serenade, and that requires a skill shop. By the way, the Symmetrical Lance does work on Gold Gorger. While it has the bubble and transform, and you can roll through it with Porcupine and actually kill it mid-transformation. We do Celeste here, hoping for a Serenade to pop out. It's a red killing deck, which isn't awful, but that has nothing to support our build with. I get the map reveal. There is no free Serenade at the end of the biome. We end up having double weapon shop, which is not the best for farming a Serenade. At this point, I think I'm just gonna grab this Assault Shield. I don't really need it to be mimicked at all. I do happen to see Pure Nail. That doesn't require me to do the dodge rolls, because now that I think about it, I'm wasting dodge rolls to get the crit when that dodge roll should be put towards the Symmetrical Lance. So I think running while spamming X, and then you have to dodge roll, and then you do damage off the dodge roll, that seems fairly impressive. So upon leaving the bank, I would say we're almost busted. We're close. It's there. The writing's on the wall, but we're not quite in the build just yet. No curse incentive, so to play it safe, we're gonna go into Clock Tower. Just as a heads up, Assault Shield dash with Porcupine does not work 100% of the time. You can also dodge into spikes. You do not have iframes for that, and it is very painful. So the Assault Shield is almost anti-synergy here, but I do kind of enjoy moving around like this, so we're gonna keep it in for now. You can see the power of the Porcu-Pack. Anything I dodge roll through should die, and on top of that, we're getting a combo stack for it. I do believe Clock Tower always has 2 skill shops. If you happen to need a skill, this is the best place to go compared to Forgotten Sepulcher. Unfortunately, no Serenade, so we're gonna have to find the other shop. So here's the second skill shop. This one is outside of the BC door. I do see cards, which is very interesting, but the Serenade does show up. This is where the build goes live. We're gonna bring in the regular Serenade in our primary weapon. The legendary Serenade has lasts indefinitely, so that one has to be in pet mode. So now you can see that we're able to dash to every monster. If you tag it one time with your primary attack, it should die to the pet Serenade. If the Serenade pet hits it first, I don't think we automatically kill it. So almost 100% of the time, the monster will die to you and then the pet, and not the other way around. With this, we're gonna go into Clock Tower, Timekeeper boss. We're gonna check to see, is this the busted build? So up against Timekeeper, I re-rolled both of the swords so that we have bonus damage to bleeding target. Bleeding, of course, is gonna come from my primary hit. These are chunking. I would say it's very dangerous to use Assault Shield here. Even though it gives you iframes, you probably will dodge into the spinning shuriken, like that aura, and that will cause you to take damage. Final hit, I think, came from the Serenade pet and not from Porcu-Pack. Would have been really cool if it did, but it was a critical, so I assume that wasn't from me. I would say that this is looking busted. We have a little bit more to go. Our legendary item happens to be a legendary baseball bat. Any other day of the week, I would have taken this. Maybe we'll save that for the next episode of Is This Busted series. We do have curse incentives. High Peak Castle and Derelict Distillery are both curse incentives. Imagine going into Distillery with monsters that curse you. Sounds awful. So we're gonna go into High Peak Castle instead. A quick busted check. As you can see, me plus the pet will kill all of these monsters. I get another Serenade in the skill shop, level 12. It doesn't have bonus to bleeding target, but it still does more damage than the one I have now, so we're gonna swap in. We're not gonna see anything super impressive until I get to the boss, but rest assured, this is a level up. As you can see, cursed monsters are on this map. Very, very, very dangerous for High Peak Castle. Not as dangerous as Distillery, though. Elite check. The pet cleaved both elites at the same time and killed them simultaneously. That looks really, really good. You do also have to be very careful about using Assault Shield on this map. Not only are there spikes everywhere that you could Assault Shield dash into by mistake, but you're also cursed from things like Sora Loser, and that would be absolutely terrible to dash into a spike while cursed. Another elite check. Thorny killed in, what, 1 hit, 2 hits? Flasher elite check. Instantly one-shotted. To be fair, it's 2-shotted because it required both me and the pet, but you get the idea. As we travel through collecting all the scrolls that were left over, I get the worst spawn of a cursed chest I could possibly imagine. At this point, I feel like all the monsters are already done. There's an elite rampager up top. As we get the map reveal, we can get a good count of what's left over. We know this left side has an elite rampager. We don't want to mess with that. I didn't full clear blue, so that has some monsters inside of it. There's 2 monsters on the way to the blue door. So we're gonna grab the curse. There are more than 10 monsters on the map. We get greeted by one in our face. I would say, because we're at 30 brutality at this point, I would highly recommend that you just leave, because this is 1 scroll's worth of difference for the chance of dying this late in your run. Like, and there's spikes everywhere. Spikes and spike balls and demons and rampagers. A lot of fast monsters, a lot of ranged attacks. It's just not safe. Of course, Serenade aggroes elites by itself. which does not help our situation, but we happen to get the kill. One monster left inside the blue door. Not a very fun one, but we'll let Serenade take care of it. And now with one monster left on the map, no teleport near us, so we gotta do a little bit of parkour and instant dash into spikes. Now, the spikes, are those busted? I would say, as a trained expert, that was the most busted spike placement I could possibly imagine. I borderline threw my controller across the room. Not on camera, but mentally, I threw the controller across the room. However, we still need to get a good check of this build. We're gonna do a little bit of training room just to give some closure to you, the viewer. So I would say coming out of High Peak Castle, the build, okay, maybe the build's busted, but not busted enough to save you from a random spike. Versus Hand the King, we're gonna have a little bit less stats here. I think I can only go up to 30 for training room. You can go up as much as you want, but it gives some suggestions, so I stopped at 30. Damage-wise, as I said, Serenade pet hitting does more damage than me hitting. All I'm doing is applying marks and getting combo. And for all I know, combo is also helping out the pet, which is very cool. Do be careful of the bombs. We have Assault Shield that can take care of them, but sometimes it's not worth it to do it for the chance of an error to occur. So in my honest opinion, I think the build that we made looks busted. I know we had a death in there. That is purely a get good. Has nothing to do with the build making. I mean, okay, maybe Assault Shield is partly to blame, but I'm gonna give this the Veedotme stamp of approval. Busted build. One of the best things about roguelike games is build variety and being able to make something that looks super impressive. Honestly, this is my favorite way to play a roguelike. I'm super excited to show you all other roguelike games that have builds that are just as busted as this one was. If you like what you saw, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, etc., etc. And I'll catch you on the next video.